Welcome to the Zildjian Company. My name is Craigie Zildjian, and I'm the first female CEO of the family business. I'm Armin Zildjian's daughter, granddaughter to Avidus Zildjian. In so many respects, Avidus, my grandfather, was ahead of his time. For example, he continuously told me and my sister Debbie that there was no reason women couldn't be just as successful in business as men.
I'm Debbie Zildjian, and I'm Vice President of Human Resources. I've been officially involved with the company, I would say, now for about 25 years, but of course, as the daughter of Armin and the granddaughter of Avidus Zildjian, I've been involved in the family business my whole life. This business is the cymbal-making business, the Avidus Zildjian Cymbal Company.
CYMBAL, used, in the Janissary bands over in Turkey, where my grandfather came from. Although the family's Armenian, the family grew up on the European side of Constantinople in a town named Samatya.
Dating back to 1623, when Avidus I invented or discovered the secret formula for making an incredibly clear and brilliant sounding cymbal.
His cymbals did sound different from anything that had ever been created before. The Sultan took note, asked Avidus to join the court and to make special cymbals for him. So he lived in the palace. And in 1623, the Sultan allowed Avidus to go out on his own. And so that's what we call the birth of the Zildjian Company, 1623. Zildjian. Z-I-L is Turkish or Armenian for cymbal. DJ is maker, and I-A-N is an Armenian suffix for son of a cymbal maker, cymbalsmith.
Artists love to come here, visit us, and we love to have them.
We only manufacture here in Norwell, Massachusetts.
Yes, world headquarters.
Well, it didn't start here. We moved into this building really to celebrate our 350th anniversary. In 1929, the business was located in Quincy, north of here.
The original factory on 39 Fayette Street. It was very close to the train station, and that was very convenient for the early days when the company was starting, that a lot of the musicians, the drummers, would come and drive into Boston, take the train down, and come on over to the factory, and that's when the business really began to take shape.
He became very, very close with Gene Krupa. Gene asked my grandfather, can you make a thinner cymbal for the drum kit instead of these heavy marching cymbals? Because cymbals had always been heavy marching cymbals. And he did, and it just became really popular. Joe Jones came along, really popularized the hi-hat. And all these terms never existed before, so you have to just make a name up. Well, this sounds like crash cymbal, so we're gonna call this a crash. This is sort of a ride beat. That's a ride cymbal. All of that terminology originated here with my grandfather and the drumming community. So this was the emergence, really, of the drum kit as we know it. And my grandfather was an important part of that.
In 1972, this factory here was completed. One of the most fun parts about being in this business is when a drummer comes here for the first time, to see how excited he or she gets. When the office was first built back in 1972, my father, who was very artistic as well as being musical, wanted the lobby to have that Middle Eastern feel, to have it recall the history of our company and our family. And that's why we have a lot of oriental rugs, the shape and design of the columns there. And of course now we've added the drum kits. We started asking some of our dearest and closest endorsers if they wouldn't be willing to donate a kit, because they're just such a part of our history. So this really began with Elvin Jones's kit. And that's a very special kit because Elvin was just such a very warm, enthusiastic, happy person. And he made a number of visits here and got the biggest kick out of seeing his drum set there. And then right next to Elvin's kit, we have a replica of Ringo Starr's kit, which brings you right back to the era of the Beatles. I mean, you look at that kit and you feel like it's 1963 all over again. And then across from them, we have sort of more of the modern current artist kit in Travis Barker. Travis's kit features the platinum cymbals, which we manufactured in the 1980s. And then right next to Travis's kit, we have Dennis Chambers, and that's just a fabulous kit. It's this bright, bright yellow, and knowing Dennis, that's his color, and it just, you know, big excitement, big kit that he used on the Santana tour.
We have Buddy Rich's set here. Buddy gave that to my father as a gift. My father had to have been his biggest fan. And there's the quote there that when Buddy was dying of a brain tumor, my father said, "Buddy, I've got your kit." And Buddy turned to my father and said, "Take care of it, will you, Zildjian?" And the next day he was gone. But we have a part of Buddy Rich here, as we do with Max Roach. He wrote a score on Pies of Quincy. Pies, a nickname for cymbals. Quincy is where we used to be before we moved to Norwell. When you come here to visit, I want people to be able to learn about the history of cymbals and cymbal making.
The process has evolved in a lot of ways, but in some ways it's still the very same process that it was back in 1623. For instance, the mixing of the metals is exactly the same. It's 80% copper, 20% tin, a little bit of silver here and there, but actually that's how the whole process starts, the mixing of the metals. And the secret is in how we mix those metals and what we do in that room where you see the door that says absolutely no admittance. So there are only a few people that are allowed to be in that room to understand and execute the special process.
My father had been planning this for a long time, which is really funny because he usually doesn't keep secrets. And just one day, he asked Debbie and me to accompany him to the melt room.
He opened the door and he brought us in and he explained exactly what was happening in there.
Which was very meaningful. It really tied us into the whole family history. And we really became the first women who had an understanding of the secret alloy.
Yeah, it was exciting, but at the same time it was a bit of a burden. You think, now I know I have to keep this secret. So when the metal is poured into molds, and we pour at different weights, we'll have a range of castings that can be very small, 2-pound castings all the way up to 22, 24-pound castings. And obviously the smaller castings are used for the splash cymbals, you know, an 8-inch, 6-inch, 10-inch splash, all the way up to 24-inch, you know, ride cymbals for the larger castings. We still heat the castings the same way, we still roll them through the rolling mills the same way, but we've taken a lot of the physical labor out of it. We now have what we call an automated material handler. It goes into the oven, places the castings in, and now the castings rotate around the furnace. And that's been an improvement because now every casting that goes through the rotary is heated at the same temperature consistently. Whereas in the old box ovens, you get the castings in the way back heated for a longer time period, probably at a higher temperature, because when you open the oven in the front part would cool off. And that would lead to a lot of breaking and inconsistency in the castings when they were rolled. The melt room, the rolling, the metal is always worked when it's hot, and it's very brittle at that point, so you have to be very careful with it. After the cymbal has been cupped and quenched, the center hole is punched into it, and then it's mounted on what we call a circle shear that makes the cymbal then a perfect circle, or as close to a perfect circle as you can. And all that scrap is reused, remelted. And then you start doing the cold work, and that's where you have the hammering, the shaping, the lathing. And all of those processes take a long time to learn. So the press is when the cymbal really starts to take its shape. And of course we have different dies for all different size cymbals. And then the hammering affects the shape of the cymbal. And that's very important to the tone and to the sound. We have so many different hammering techniques and hammering technology that nobody else has. And then you move on to the lathing. We do hand lathing as well as automatic lathing, and then we do combinations of both. The lathing can also help contour the cymbal. It takes weight off the cymbal, which affects the sound. And some cymbals are lathed to a greater degree than other cymbals are, and that's all done for a reason. Some are lathed on both sides, some not lathed on the bottom. It really is a very delicate process, and I think people don't realize how long it takes to become a very good lather. 6 months to a year before you really understand what you're doing to the cymbal. And then only the more experienced lathers get to do the cymbals like the K. Constantinople's. I think Zildjian is the only cymbal manufacturer that has the creativity and the experience in sort of melding the old craftsmanship with the new modern technology. And that's why we're the most innovative. And I think our products, our cymbals speak for that. Our instruments are very unique. Next comes edging, and that's just a necessary part of making the cymbal. It's very sharp at that point. We place the cymbal on what we call the edger, and there is a piece that comes up and does the burnishing. But then the operator does it by hand with a piece of sandpaper just to give it the finished feel and the nice smooth effect. Some of our cymbals are buffed, not all of the cymbals are buffed, but the buffing adds to the visual effect. The A custom line is always buffed, and it gives it that high, beautiful luster. What people forget about a cymbal is it has those little grooves in it, the tonal grooves that are there to enhance the sound effect of the cymbal. But at the same time, when you want to put a logo on that, it's difficult to make sure that the ink fills all those grooves and gives you a nice, clear, beautiful look to it. So that's something that we've had to perfect over the years, to the right kind of ink, the right kind of pad process. It's a quality instrument, and the name must look the same as the quality of the sound. The printing, we say, it's a nice kiss on the cymbal. Then the printed cymbal goes through a heating tunnel to dry the ink. And after that, the trademark is put on by a laser etching. Another Zildjian innovation. Again, because the surface of a cymbal is bowed and it also has those tonal grooves in it, it was difficult to trademark the old way with the stamping press because that could often crack the cymbal if you didn't have the pressure exactly perfect. I think everybody's heard that Zildjian cymbals are always tested before they go into the vault. But I think what people don't realize is throughout the process, we're always bringing the cymbals into the tester for quality checks to make sure at different stages of the process, is the shape of the cymbal right? Is the thickness right? Are the hammer marks the right ones? So there are various stages of testing, but ultimately the product, before it goes in to be printed, goes through a very formal testing period. Someone listens to every cymbal we make before we put the Zildjian name on it and approve it. Oh, of course, we have our legendary tester, Leon Chiappini, who's been with us for over 40 years. And he is responsible now for training all the new testers. So we have testers on every shift. And we train our testers not only for sound now, but for visual effects and for shape and weight.
We're not all about the drum set. We do marching, we do orchestral. In fact, we lead in those areas. And we really wanted to have a place where orchestral players could come. You need to make it easy for people to come in and pair cymbals because it's a long, tedious process. But the room itself speaks to our commitment to orchestral. There's no other cymbal manufacturer who has an orchestral room like that. Well, cymbals had always been picked out in the vault.
Oh my gosh, what do I want to say, 20,000 cymbals anyway? Yeah. I don't think we ever have time enough to count them all. They come in and go out as fast, but there are certain cymbals in the vault that need to be aged. Certain products need more time than others. So we do have areas like the vintage cymbals that have to stay in the vault longer before we release them for sale. They just need a longer time period. And it's also true that cymbals over time from playing will sound better.
My father said, when we have the space, when we move to Norwell, I want to have a drummer's lounge. There's a kit and you can sit down and try out your cymbals at the kit. Dennis Chambers and everybody else comes in here to do this. And people are in awe of this room because of the people who have been here. The Tony Williams, the Steve Gadds. We honor drummers here. We respect drumming. In 1998, we came up with what we called the American Drummers Achievement Awards. It was a way to honor Max, Louis, Roy, and Elvin. We had Steve Gadd play to honor Louis Bellson. And 5 years later, for our 380th anniversary, we had Louis come up and honor Steve Gadd. It's one generation of drummers honoring another. So all of that just enriches us and reinforces it. And we see that we have a role within the drumming community to sort of melt the past with the present and the future. So as we approach our 400th anniversary, we're thinking of, how to perpetuate the business. Just being raised in the family, you understood that there was a stewardship and that this was a business that was really supposed to go on forever. Succession is always an issue for family businesses, and we spend a lot of time educating the next generation, bringing them into the business.
That's my daughter, Emily. She really was interested in coming into the family business. But as she said, I want to know how to make the cymbals. I don't want to work at the desk. I want to know how to make cymbals. So she made a 2-year commitment to enter the apprentice program under the R&D and quality manager, Paul Francis. And she's on the first shift here, 7 o'clock every morning. She knows how to hammer. She knows how to use the dies. And she's become quite an accomplished lather. But, as she said, I really feel the presence of my grandfather, Armand, out there. She said it's great knowing that he did all of this and understanding what it really takes to make a cymbal.
There's passion here. If you're a drummer, you can work with drummers to make sure that you get your particular sound. That's important to a musician.
And drummers are very unique in that way, that they like to mix and match different sounds, whether it's electronic, acoustic, all different genres, all different voices, sounds, and they hear it in their head. And our job is to take those ideas and make them into new, beautiful instruments.
As my father said, that's our role, to have an understanding of where music is going and to follow that so that we can produce for drummers the sounds they need.
And that's what we do. We make the best cymbal in the world, and it's a beautiful instrument, and it's just an exciting thing to do because it's music.